Loki's finally revealed what he's been hiding behind those bandages, and yeah, those snake-like eyes aren't just for show. This chapter doesn't just give us a striking visual reveal, it brings us closer to understanding the weight of Loki's past, his mysterious lineage, and a truth that may shift the future of Elbaf entirely. Alongside that, we also get more of Harold's backstory, and even a subtle connection to Monkey D. Dragon, and possibly a second child, that's easy to miss but hard to ignore. Let's begin with Loki's eyes. It's easily one of the most unsettling visuals we've gotten in a long time. Between the cold intensity of the gaze, the image of Loki as a baby, and that desperate crawl up the roots of the tree, it's eerie, almost primal. But Oda didn't include this just for aesthetic impact. This is more than a design choice. It's world building. From what we've seen so far, there's a strong implication that Loki's eyes are tied to some kind of innate ability. Something he was born with, not gained through a devil fruit. We know he's wearing sea prism stone shackles, which likely means he has a devil fruit as well. But the eyes? That feels like something else entirely. There's been a quiet thread through this arc that Loki's been aware, precise, and calculated even while blindfolded. That alone suggests his eyes grant him some kind of power. The most straightforward possibility is that it's a heightened form of observation haki, potentially even bordering on future sight. Another possibility, something closer to Fujitora's awareness, a blind but near-perfect spatial perception. Or maybe it's closer to Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen. The blindfold actually limits the overwhelming amount of information he'd otherwise be processing. Either way, Loki's behavior makes sense. If he's had this power since birth, it would explain why he's been so careful about keeping it hidden. But it also opens up a darker possibility that there's something dangerous about those eyes. That they're not just powerful, they're cursed, feared, maybe even responsible for something tragic. Remember, every time we've seen him in a flashback, no matter the age, the bandages are there. Even during moments with rocks, even before he developed into the fighter he is now. That level of consistency feels deliberate, like something traumatic or deeply significant is tied to them. There's even a moment worth pausing on. His mother, Estrid, became ill shortly after giving birth. That alone raises questions. Maybe it was coincidence, or maybe Loki's power is tied to something greater, something mythological. And if we're going to go there, we need to talk Norse mythology, specifically Nidhogg. In those myths, Nidhogg is a massive serpent-like dragon that lives beneath the roots of the world tree, gnawing at its foundation. In other words, it lives in the underworld. That should sound familiar, because in the lore of Elbaf, Loki was exiled almost immediately after birth, cast out and hidden from the world. Like Nidhogg, he was sent below, feared, but destined to rise. There's even more to connect the two. Loki's wing-shaped tattoos on his back? They look eerily like something you'd see on a creature built for both flight and ruin. At this point, the idea that Loki might have ancient dragon lineage or even a direct tie to a serpent-based myth is hard to ignore. And if you compare him to characters like Shirahoshi or Momonosuke, that connection becomes stronger. All three are royal children, all three are tied to massive ancient creatures. Shirahoshi commands the Sea Kings. Momonosuke commands Zunesha, the Great Elephant. If that's the pattern, then Loki could very well be tied to something in the sky. A massive flying beast, maybe even a true dragon. That would not only complete the elemental trio, sea, land, and sky, it would also make Loki's role in the final war that much more significant. Now back to the question, what exactly is his devil fruit power? We don't have confirmation yet that Loki is the one who ate the legendary Elbaf fruit. But we do know this. He's chained in sea prism shackles, which means he has a devil fruit. He also clearly states that his powers are needed to fight the Holy Knights. So whatever this fruit is, it's not ornamental, it's critical. We've seen a lot of speculation already. A fire giant fruit, illusion-based powers, even a Fenrir model. But the one that fits best right now? Jormungandr, the world serpent of Norse mythology. Banished by the gods, destined to return during Ragnarok. Sound familiar? Loki's been cast out. Now he's back, and the world's about to change. If Oda's pulling from that story directly, then Loki's devil fruit could be a mythical Zoan, model Jormungandr, a snake-dragon hybrid that controls storms, poison, or even underworld flames. And the connection deepens when we look at the Harley mural. One side showing a giant fighting with Joy Boy, the other side a serpent bearing the same markings. There's already a visual through line. So yeah, maybe the name is something like Mythical Snake Fruit. Model Hell Flame. Fits the myth. Fits the mural. Fits the arc. But here's the part that throws a wrench in everything. Chapter 1152. We see someone sneaking in to steal the legendary fruit of Elbaf. And whoever that is, doesn't really look like Loki. And if the scenes are happening concurrently, Loki can't be both in the throne room and stealing the fruit. So if he didn't eat it, who did? And more importantly, what was that fruit? Here's where the theory gets wild, but logical. What if the fruit stolen in that chapter wasn't some ancient Elbaf fruit, but the actual Nika fruit? The one the world government had been hunting for centuries. The one that disappeared, only to reappear in Shanks's possession. If that's true, then it ties everything together. The world government, Imu, Elbaf, the failed peace treaties, and even the final war. And it might also connect directly to what really happened to Harold. It's not hard to imagine that Imu and the world government were behind the theft of the fruit. After all, they've been chasing the Nika fruit for centuries. It's the one thing that represents the greatest threat to their control. So the idea of them sending an agent to steal it from Elbaf, that fits. It's consistent with everything we know about how far they're willing to go to keep that power buried. But there's one more connection worth exploring while we're still on the subject of the Nika fruit and the serpent dragon motifs that have been showing up more and more. This one leads us straight to a familiar name, Kaido. Because if there really is an ancient prophecy, one that speaks of a great serpent rising at the end of the world, standing beside, or even becoming the sun god, then it helps us understand something Kaido said during Wano, that he once believed he was Joy Boy, or that, at the very least, he was destined to fight alongside him. It's not just a delusion, there's a pattern forming. Let's take a closer look. Kaido's ultimate attack was named Ragnarok, Conqueror of Three Worlds. That's not a coincidence. In Norse myth, Ragnarok is the end of the world. A cosmic battle involving gods, monsters, and fate itself. And now, in the Harley mural, we've learned that the three worlds are real. They're part of the foundational mythology of Elbaf. Oda's been weaving this quietly for a long time. And it's becoming harder to ignore that Kaido's story might be linked to the very same myths guiding Loki's journey. Loki himself has hinted at wanting to bring an end to the world. Whether that's what he truly believes or what others fear of him remains unclear. But it reinforces a recurring theme, that there's a deep connection between serpents, dragons, and the cataclysmic shifts that shake the world at its core. The parallels between Kaido and Loki run deeper than expected. Kaido sailed with Rox D. Zebek, the very same pirate crew that Loki once dreamed of joining. Not only does that tie them together narratively, but it suggests something bigger. Maybe they both heard the same prophecy. Maybe Rox told it to Kaido after a visit to Elbaf, and that's where the seed was planted. Kaido believed he was the chosen one. Or maybe he believed he had a role to play in supporting the real one. It's myth wrapped in tragedy. But this arc isn't just about ancient powers or divine titles. It's also about families. And no relationship in this arc has been more complicated or more human than that of Loki and his father, King Harold. Because underneath all the politics, the prophecies, and the war, This is a story about a father, two sons, and the weight of decisions no one really wanted to make. This chapter gives us a major reveal. There was a prophecy that Loki would one day kill Harold. And on the surface, it looks like that's exactly what happened. Except it's not that simple. Yes, the gods were the ones who actually attacked Harold first. But Loki, with his powers, his bloodline, and his place in the public eye, is the one who gets blamed. As far as the people of Elbaf are concerned, the prophecy came true. Destiny fulfilled. Which brings us to the real question. Was the prophecy real? Or did it only happen because everyone expected it to? We've seen this before in One Piece. Prophecies aren't always divine. Sometimes they're self-fulfilling, sometimes they become reality because fear drives people to act in destructive ways. Just take Loki's mother, Estrid. From the moment she laid eyes on him, she panicked. She didn't see a child, she saw a prophecy. Her words were chilling. Remove that child from this world. It has been foretold. King Harold will be killed by his own son. And from that moment on, Loki's life was shaped by fear. Not his own, but the fear of others. But here's the twist. Harold didn't reject him. Not really. In previous flashbacks, we've seen Harold call both his sons precious. It's not the warmest relationship, but there's care there. Harold didn't exile Loki out of hate. Which raises the question, why not? Why didn't he lean into the fear the way Estrid did? Maybe the answer lies in Ida. Because Harold wasn't always the pacifist king trying to change Elbaf. He started out like most giants, battle-hardened, proud and steeped in tradition. But when he met Ida, something shifted. She came from another land. Her ideas were different. She challenged him, even slapped him once. And that moment seemed to change everything. She didn't just change Harold's politics. She changed how he saw the world. And eventually, how he saw his own children. More than that, Ida, not Estrid, is the one who truly cared for Loki. She encouraged her own son Hadrudin to meet Loki despite his bias. She didn't have to do that. She could have chosen safety, chosen sides. But she didn't. She believed in family. And that makes Ida quietly one of the most important figures in the entire Elbaf story. The bridge between brothers, the catalyst for peace. If Harold is the king who tried to shift Elbaf's legacy, Ida is the reason he tried at all. And that's what makes Harold's eventual fate so tragic. Because Harold tried to move Elbaf forward. He tried to end cycles of violence and isolation. He pushed for alliances, including with the fishmen, and he valued education, not just strength. And yet, that's what made him a threat. The world government didn't mind when Elbaf was violent, when it was disconnected. That served their goals. But when Harold started building bridges, when he started pushing against the boundaries of what the world was allowed to be, that's when they took notice. That's when the interference began. It's not the chaos that scares the world government. It's unity. And suddenly we start to see another connection, one that goes beyond Elbaf. Because Harold's arc, a powerful man changed by love, trying to create peace, ultimately punished for it, starts to resemble another familiar figure, Monkey D. Dragon. Both turned away from systems of control. Both may have been motivated by a woman they met, and both were ultimately branded dangerous not because they fought wars, but because they tried to build something better. But for now, we'll leave that theory where it belongs. Next, let's shift focus to what this chapter tells us about why the world government is afraid of Elbaf. Because it's not about giants. It's about something far more dangerous, knowledge, unity, and the ancient truths they've spent 800 years trying to erase. Away from family and fate, and look directly at what might be the most revealing part of this chapter, the politics. Because this chapter quietly delivers one of the clearest insights yet into what the world government, and IMU in particular, is actually afraid of. And here's the twist. It's not pirates. It's not destruction. It's not even chaos. It's unity. See, the world government didn't bat an eye when the giant warrior pirates roamed the seas burning and raiding. That kind of violence? It's useful. It spreads fear. It reinforces the idea that people need the government to protect them. It keeps the world divided. Small islands terrified, alliances broken. But then Harold did something radical. He stopped fighting. He started encouraging education, diplomacy. He began reaching out, not just to other kingdoms, but to entire species the world government had worked to isolate. The fishmen, foreign giants. And that's when the trouble started. Because that's what Emu can't allow. We've seen this pattern before. The Yonko system, for example, was tolerated, even nurtured, by the world government because it ensured that no one group ever got too close to uncovering the truth. It maintained the balance and kept the world fragmented. But true unity? That's dangerous because it points back to the Void Century, a time when the ancient kingdom forged alliances with giants, fishmen, skyfolk, and more. A time of incredible technology, of shared knowledge, of hope. That world had to be erased, not just physically, but spiritually. Its very memory had to be wiped out. So when Harold started forging those same connections, the writing was on the wall. He wasn't just breaking the rules, he was rewriting the past. That's why Emu intervened. That's why the Holy Knight started moving. That's why this entire Elbaf arc is more than just another stop on the road to Laughtale. It's a return to everything the ancient kingdom stood for. In a way, the world government is like the world's worst landlord. As long as you keep the lights off and the roof leaking, you're fine. But start fixing things? Invite the neighbors over? Build a community? Now you're a threat. And while we still don't know the full extent of Harold's deal with the Holy Knights, one thing is clear. It didn't end the way Emu wanted. Maybe Harold tried to play both sides. Maybe he tried to buy time. But in the end, he made one critical mistake. He hoped that peace would be allowed to grow in a system built to destroy it. And that's why I think this entire arc is going to come down to the prophecies. They aren't just flavor text. They're the spine of the narrative. Because, like the myths of Nidhogg and Jomunganda, ancient beings tied to destruction and rebirth, the people of Elbaf aren't just waiting for the end of the world. They're living on the edge of it. Every choice Harold made, every moment Loki was cast aside, every hidden whisper of prophecy, it's all pointing toward a final reckoning, not just for Elbaf, but for the entire world. And that's everything we've got so far. All the facts and theories I've pieced together till now. If you want me to dive deeper into anything, just let me know in the comments.